In order to experience the unlimited and the divine, one must be in an unlimited and divine state of consciousness. The evolution of consciousness only occurs through us summoning more of ourself. There's nothing more effective than working with yourself, the I am God, directly. Once we have access to what is, to the truth, this is the only time we can overcome. We can't transcend what we don't understand. We can't transcend what we don't see. We are the sun. And I know this. This is not a belief. This is not a concept. This is metaphysics. And what you are can never be tainted, can never be harmed, can never be traumatized, can never suffer. You only suffer your identification. This is why a lot of people are going towards psychedelics for therapy, because it shoots them past personhood. It shoots them past the identification. The soul is the cure for all that ails humanity. The I am is the cure for all that ails humanity, because that's the wholeness. Matter is simply patterned energy. This is the hidden magic and alchemy for transformation and manifestation. There's a lot more to it than those two things.
We've talked about your paralysis before on this podcast a couple of times. I never took the time to ask you, how was it being paralyzed for RJ?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Okay. Just from a very corporeal standpoint, being paralyzed, and I was paralyzed from the chest down. I don't know if you've ever been gotten buried in the sand. I don't know if you've ever done that.
I actually have had that experience, yeah.
Okay. So you can't move an inch, right? I mean, so moving an inch is an impossibility. And it's this tightness, right? So to me, and there's nothing really quite like being paralyzed, but in terms of sort of pure physicality, that's what it felt like. It felt like I was completely buried under the sand, and an inch of movement was absolutely impossible. Totally impossible. Well, impossible for only about 17 days, and we corrected that for sure. But that's what it felt like. And as hard as it is to maybe connect with the understanding that my state of being, my mindset, and how I felt about myself and life, I mean, I was joyous. And I know that seems impossible. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. The destruction of my body was my true liberation. I was about as close to enlightenment as you can get. And my ego, mind, identity was very happy with that. But upon the destruction, it's like I was totally liberated. I was absolutely joyous. I felt agony on levels of pain I didn't think existed, but I didn't suffer because I didn't identify with it. I felt incredible pain that was ongoing, but I felt free. I felt liberated. I felt happy. I felt joyous. I was constantly, as you and I do, I always joke around. I was constantly joking around. So it was a great physical challenge to overcome without question, to bring back life. Once the spine is damaged, Emrit, it's like a jelly-like substance. It doesn't have any self-healing or self-repair mechanism, right? It's not like skin. You cut your skin, it scabs and heals, right? Spine is a different animal. So it required the Ascend the Frequencies healing technique, which is the technique I developed to heal myself. And that's the first book, right? So the physicality, to overcome the physicality, literally took everything I had. The amount of focus, the amount of energy, the amount of dedication. If I didn't give everything I had, I never would have been able to overcome it. So to me, it was just this, I mean, the challenge was the path. That was it. So it's like I was broke because the medical bills wiped me out. So I didn't have a dime to my name. The version of myself that I was before I became quote unquote permanently paralyzed, that version of RJ was gone. Right? So it was literally like completely starting over as a 45-year-old man, completely starting over, no semblance of any physicality that actually works. I could move my arms. That was about it. And I didn't have a dime. I had no resources whatsoever, but I was literally joyous and couldn't have been happier. And so I knew I was going to put myself back together. And so it was just about doing what I knew to do. And I wasn't going to hold myself back in any way. And I was willing to break everything to put it back together properly. And so the challenge became the path. And before I knew it, because the one guest that I had I was in the hospital rehab for ru roughly 2.5 months, give or take 2.5 months. The only guest I had was a Chinese medicine expert, and he wrote the foreword for Supercharged Self-Healing, the first book. So he was the only guest. And so he was witnessing what he wrote in the foreword, that if he wasn't there in person, he would have said, "This is absolutely impossible." And he said, "I have to write the foreword because no one is gonna believe this is really true." And as we were doing this, I had no idea. Amrit, he was telling, he's got a big practice in San Diego. His name is Adrian. He's got a big practice in San Diego. He was telling all his patients about me. So just as I was about to get out, to finally get released after being in the hospital rehab, he asked me to come and teach meditation to all his students. So I was like, yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to. I'd love to talk about meditation, metaphysics, right? So of course I'll do that. That'd be fantastic. So I show up and there's like 40 people waiting. And so I teach meditation, and then they're all like, "RJ, is there any way that we can work with you? I got this physical ailment. I got this. I just want to start working with you." So all of a sudden, I had some kind of thriving practice of seeing people, right? I didn't run any ads. I didn't do any Instagram posts. I didn't do anything, right? So all of a sudden, it's like Adrian had actually created an instantaneous business for myself. And so I stepped into, and I had no idea that he had been doing this. I stepped into the ability to start working with people right away. And so it was so difficult. Um, Difficult's not the right word. It was, I mean, I was told it was impossible. There's a reason why when you're permanently paralyzed from the chest down, there aren't a lot of people walking around from that. It took
Mm.
everything I had. It took absolutely everything I had, but I, I knew I was going to do it. And everything that I was doing, as exhausting and agonizing and painful as it was so right. It was so right. And this RJ 2.0 is what we kind of joke. The RJ 2.0 that you and I are interacting is my true self. And so I would go through anything to liberate myself. And I guess in this life, with my last name being Spina, which means spine, that I wanted to give myself a really big challenge. I gave myself the biggest challenge I could think of. And by applying myself completely, I was able to overcome it. But I was never sad. I never cried. I was never unhappy. Far from it. It's actually just the opposite. Just the opposite. I felt such gratitude to still be alive and to have the opportunity to continue my incarnation. And to continue my incarnation is really me, my true self, and an awakened, enlightened individual again. And to then share this, I would do it again.
Wow. The, the gratitude that you graduate to, I'm sure we're gonna talk about later in today's episode. Um, yeah. Wow. You have recently written a book. The central claim that I picked up throughout the book, which is just over your shoulder there, actually, "You are the sun," is that actually nobody, even survivors of horrific abuse, have actually ever been traumatized. It's written in very interesting tone. I think people are gonna hear today, yeah, a bit of a skeptic coming through in me, but it's also because the book's written in a way where it's actually you bring your skepticism, and it literally is a skeptic and a traumatized victim individual, either or, take your pick, asking questions of RJ on subject matter like this. It's like, "Hey, survivors of horrific abuse, your claim is that they've never actually been traumatized." From someone hearing what you've just shared about your own healing journey and that they might be going through something, I mean, how do you defend this stance?
Yeah, it's okay. It's definitely a radical perspective, but it's true. It's true. And so the book, as you know, explains it, and we can go into it a little bit. So I'll give an
Please.
example, right?
Thank
So
you.
if let's use, and by the way, I didn't have the easiest childhood. This is not me playing the violin for myself.
Hmm.
I know abuse, and I know all these kind of things too. So I've had the full human experience, right? Not just the paralysis. So Let's take a look at something like a time-lapse camera. Okay. So the I am, people use the word soul, but the I am, the awareness, right? Okay, what we really are is eternal, right? We are life itself. We are a life stream that just continues on and on. Incarnations having a beginning and an end, but it's the I am that gives birth to the things that have beginning and ending. So what I'm talking about is the I am. I'm talking about the self. I'm talking about God, the God within us all. This is what we actually are. There's no beginning and end to this. Okay. So a time-lapse camera, as an analogy, right? It views long periods of time, right? And when we watch it, it's all sped up, obviously. Okay, so we understand that. All right. So as the time-lapse camera is watching a forest fire, right? Does the time-lapse camera suffer what it is watching? Is it affected by what it's observing? Is it
No.
traumatized? No, well, it's not. I mean, right? It's not. Okay. All right. So now when we start to look at this, what I am telling you, this is not a belief, this is not a concept. What I tangibly know to be true. I have been through the forest fire in terms of the human perspective. I've gone through this. So I know, right? What we are, this deep, deep awareness is simply aware of what's going on. I was aware of the paralysis. I was aware of I had 48 hours to live. I was aware of life-threatening conditions. I was aware of agonizing, unrelenting pain. But I did not suffer just like the time-lapse camera. I was simply the awareness of everything that was happening. So if we look deeper into this, what we really are, I'm not talking about the human character. I'm not talking about that. What we really are is never traumatized. It cannot be traumatized because what we are is a much higher frequency that temporarily adorns a physical suit, the biological garment or the human form itself, which is part of and attuned to this local environment. Now, the suit definitely I was paralyzed. So the suit definitely can be damaged, right? But what you are, the one that's living through the suit, is never traumatized. That's impossible. It's actually impossible because awareness cannot be aware and the victim at the same time. This is impossible. Now, Amrit, this does require it requires the truth, but what it does require is, from a human perspective, it requires detachment. So in other words, not identifying with what is going on, whether it's abuse or paralysis, any of these things, any of them. And this is not dismissing. I'm not saying these things didn't occur for people. I'm not saying that at all. The people that suffered physical abuse, they suffered physical abuse without question. But what I'm saying is what you really are hasn't suffered a moment, has never been traumatized. Never. Your character that identifies with what's going on, definitely. You're not your character. You're not the ego mind identity. You're not. Because you can't, just like the time-lapse camera, it is aware of what's going on, but it is not affected by what is going on. And so the title of the book, You Are the Sun, works in the same way, Amrit. So I used to, and still do, when I'm talking to people, I talk about the sun itself. So let's say we have terrible weather. We have a terrible incarnation. We have terrible weather, physical abuse, psychological abuse, emotional abuse. So in other words, with the weather, rain, sleet, storm, earthquake, tornado, on and on and on and on. Does any of that affect the sun? Does the sun touched,
It's
harmed?
unperturbed by any of
This
that.
is this is what I say, my friend. This is the truth. That's why I say you are the sun. We are the sun. And I know this. This is not a belief. This is not a concept. This is metaphysics. This is the absolute truth. I have lived this. And I'm here to tell you the truth. The truth is that you are the sun. You are untouched. You're not the physical body. You are what gives birth to the physical body. And what you are can never be tainted, can never be harmed, can never be traumatized, can never suffer. You only suffer your identifications. And when you identify with the body, when you identify with emotions, when you identify with physical sensations, whether pain or pleasure, then you will suffer. But that is not the truth of what's really going on. The truth is you are the sun, and you're always the sun, and you are never traumatized.
You go on to say that pain and pleasure are just bodily sensations, as you just referenced. But you actually say that at the highest levels of consciousness, that they're actually seen as the same thing. That's quite a staggering statement. And how
Yeah.
is that and what you're currently discussing not dissociation?
Okay. Another great question. Okay. So let's go back to that detachment. Let's go back to the truth. Let's go back to that we are the I am or the soul or however you want to say that, God. Okay. So we're not the human body. Okay. We are aware of our body, which means we are aware of the experiences that the body has. We're aware of bodily sensation. We're the awareness, we're the time-lapse camera, aware of all these different changes. Okay. At the deepest levels of detachment, which coincides with the highest levels of consciousness, you cannot separate those two things out. So at the deepest level of non-identification, which is the highest levels of consciousness itself, the only thing that's registering is a bodily sensation. And at that state, or within that state of detachment and high level of consciousness, the highest levels of consciousness, it just registers as bodily sensation. Pain or pleasure are really nothing. They're seen as they're literally seen. I'm telling you, they're literally seen as the exact same thing. It's just something is going on with the body. That's it. That's all. So, but again, the prerequisite is total detachment, and in order to experience the unlimited and the divine, one must be in an unlimited and divine state of consciousness. Okay? So we'll never come to these truths and these understandings viewing things from personhood, from the conditioned mind. Okay? So this comes from a much deeper state and a much higher state of consciousness. But pain and pleasure, they're just bodily sensations. That's all. And when they register as such, it's just something is going on with the body. The level of sovereignty that you have, you no longer become a slave to pleasure and you no longer fear pain. I don't mean go, play in the street and tempt getting run over by a car. That's not what I mean. I just mean you are no longer fearful, right? And you're no longer craving. And so pain and pleasure at the highest levels there's really no difference. It's just bodily sensations.
Input signals.
Yeah.
Um, for some people tuning in right now, this is their heckles are gonna be up around spiritual bypassing. And in the book, you raise this objection not twice, but 3 times as well. I mean, can we get the fullest answer to this for those that are, listening along and feeling that way at this point?
Okay. So spiritual bypassing is almost pretending that it didn't occur. What I'm talking about is the truth, is that you are witnessing what is going on. This is the truth. Spiritual bypassing is the denial of what is actually going on, and that I don't need to deal with anything. I don't need to process. I don't need to actually experience these sensations. I've never said don't experience sensations. That's actually impossible, right? But the idea is to not identify with them. And this is the night and day difference between true metaphysics, enlightened metaphysics, and spiritual bypassing. To pretend that when people say, "Oh, it's all love," right? It's all good. This is spiritual bypassing. That's what that is. It is sure as shit is not all love. It sure as shit is not all. It's all good. Absolutely not. That's the spiritual bypassing. The truth of the matter is, we are the sun. We are the time-lapse camera that is observing these things, that is aware of these things. We're not in denial. We're not in denial. We're not pretending that this isn't occurring, but we're not identified with what is occurring. And this is what every true spiritual master and mystic talks about. This detachment, this liberation from personhood. This is what it is. It's the opposite of spiritual bypassing because you're acutely aware of everything that's going on, like the time-lapse camera is picking up everything. It's not in denial of what's going on. It's just the opposite. It's hyper aware. And actually, now that I'm rambling about it, this state, this state of heightened consciousness, which goes along with the detachment, it actually gives you the hyper frequential, if that's a word, we'll create some words, hyper frequential perception. This is actually what allows you to see beyond physical sensory perception, what the 5 senses allow and this is what creates the intellect in the conditioned mind. It's a very, very limited data stream. So this is actually what throws open the door to true higher sensory perception, is this deep level of detachment or non-identification with the physical form while being in this heightened state of consciousness. They go together. And this is actually what opens the door. It's the opposite. It's the opposite of spiritual bypass. It's the truth. It's what is. You're hyper aware of everything that's going on, but you're working with the truth and that these things are not you. You are aware of these things. You are detached from these things. You're not in denial of these things.
Hey there, Inspired Souls. I wanted to take a moment and thank all of you that are subscribed to this podcast. Everything you see around here, like I like to say, touch wood, is powered and empowered by your subscription to this podcast. It costs you nothing. It's completely free. There's a button down below. It lights up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution when I say the word subscribe. And if you can hit that button, hit that bell notification icon, it's completely free. It gives you the opportunity to support the channel so guests like this can come on and share their insights, share their wisdom. Every week, we do 2 episodes a week. And once a month, we actually gather with the guests inside the Inspired Evolution Community Circle. Here, if you start to fall in love with the content, just know that's the space for connection around the content. It's the Inspired Evolution Community Circle. We affectionately call it the Circle. The center's empty. It's not about Amaret. I'm just one of us. And once a month, we get together and we run kind of like a podcast where you guys ask the questions of the guests when they come on. We also gather once a week. I guide meditations. There's community sharing circles. If there's astrological updates, there's breath work, there's a bit of yoga, there's all sorts of cool stuff happening inside there. And lots of people meeting people in person as well. We've done our best to make several live, interactive, connection oriented. So it's less, there is text-based connection, absolutely, but it's this opportunity to really connect, especially as we move into this Aquarian age. Yeah, we're going to need, Aquarius rules community. We're going to need more community. It's about the I and the we. Pisces had the fish, schools of thought. This is all shifting under our feet right now. So as we're looking for tribe and connection, Inspired Evolution Community Circle, come on in, give it a whirl, yeah, and just see if it's for you. And it really supports the channel as well. So thank you so much for all of you that are part of the community and supporting the channel and this work, doing the things that it's doing in the world. Really, really, really sincerely appreciate you all. And we'd love to welcome those of you that are inspired to evolve on the inside. And I'm mentioning that as well because today's episode goes super deep, yeah, and it's conversations like this that we're having inside the circle amongst a community of peers. So if that sounds inspiring to you, do check us out, inspiredevolution.com/circle. What if someone was to look at the context of your story and say that you being paralyzed was a significant trauma to you and your awakening was simply a trauma response?
Well, it sounds like a great some desire to reduce. It feels like that if someone wants to say that they want to reduce it somehow, and if they want to, I don't really care.
Mm,
That's totally fine to me. I'm not sure what the need to do that is or why
mm,
why we want to reduce. So what I will say is that the evolution of consciousness only occurs through us summoning more of ourself. Okay, so what do I really mean by that? So think about Clark Kent,
yeah.
right? So okay, so Clark Kent, some shit starts to happen, right?
Mm,
He's like, okay, what is the first thing that he does? Is he tries to make sure no one sees what he's really doing, but what he does is he pulls back his business suit, right?
mhm,
What's underneath there? His Superman outfit. Okay, this is what I mean about working directly with who and what we really are, the I am,
mm,
the God within us all, right? Now, this requires what we call obstacles and challenges, health, wealth, this, that, whatever it is, right? We must call upon more of ourselves because the calling upon more of ourselves is the evolution of consciousness itself. And we only do this when there is a challenge. Otherwise, humanity doesn't get the best out of itself. Humanity gets the best out of itself when it's pushed into a corner. Why? Because it has to. I got the best out of myself because I didn't have a choice. I had 48 hours to live and I was in agony and I was going to be paralyzed from the chest down for the rest of my life. No, absolutely not. So I Clark Kented it, as I like to say. I pulled back all the projections and limitations and beliefs and concepts, right? So I summoned more of myself to be present with more of myself. I demanded more of myself, and I only demanded more of myself because I had to have it. I had to have it. And so the evolution of consciousness comes through the challenges. It comes to the so-called challenges, the so-called obstacles, whatever. I mean, we all have these things. But that's the evolution of consciousness. Otherwise, we would probably sit on the couch, right? Watch the Sopranos again, which was great, but ultimately I found it a little depressing, to be honest. But it was still great. But otherwise, we would sit on the couch, eat popcorn, and watch the Sopranos. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing right with it either. There's nothing right with it either. But the evolution of consciousness is only when you summon more of yourself, and we typically only do that when we have to.
The machinery of suffering, you've been speaking about it, but you haven't labeled it as such thus far in this conversation. This identification, the spells, and then there's a payoff as well. Identification being this real key to the machinery of suffering. Can you step us through how the machine runs from thought to emotion to identity, please?
Yeah. Well, so the whole my thoughts, my feelings, my experiences, my body, my story. Okay. So ownership is an illusion, right? So if we really start to look at this, whatever you think you own owns you. That's the truth of the matter, right? These are not your thoughts. You're aware of them. One cannot be the awareness and the victim at the same time. We must let this land. So it's the ownership that creates the identity. And then when you identify with passing phenomena, and your entire incarnation is simply passing phenomena, and everything that occurs within that passing phenomena, thoughts, emotions, experiences, travel, every lunch you've ever had, every conversation you've ever had, these are all passing phenomena within a larging passing phenomena, which is just your incarnation. You're still the time-lapse camera. You're still the sun. These things are moving through your consciousness, right? Like the snow globe, right? When we're not detached, right? It's like trying to always look through the shaken snow globe and try to figure out, and trying to manage our thoughts and manage our emotions and all this kind of stuff. But when you're not shaken, when you're fully present, when the snow globe is not shaken, you can see very clearly. You have true clarity. And in that true clarity, you know yourself. So there truly is authentically, there's nothing, suffering does not really exist. Now remember, this is someone who went through hell. I mean, literally, right? I did not suffer. I felt agonizing pain, but I didn't suffer it because I was just aware of it. I was aware of what was passing through the screen of my consciousness, the awareness. So it's it's the ownership. That's where we get the identification, Amrit. My thoughts, my feelings, my dreams, my fears, my ruminations, my expectations, right? So we have this ownership, we have identification. All suffering comes from identification. All of it. Because how could you suffer something that you're just witnessing? How could you suffer what you're just watching? You cannot. You cannot. Now, this, again, I said this before, I want to say it again. I don't want people to come away with, well, RJ is saying that I didn't really, these things happened. I'm not saying these things didn't happen. You must understand this. I know what it's like from A to Z with all this terrible stuff. I personally know. Okay? I'm saying that I was the awareness and the witness to these things. I'm not those things. If you were those experiences, when they passed, wouldn't you pass too? For a memory to even be formed, must something already be present? That's what I'm talking about. That's the truth. The truth is that trauma and suffering doesn't really exist. It exists in the unawakened mind through identification and attachment. And then it definitely does exist. It definitely does exist. But you're suffering your own attachments and your own identifications, your own expectations, how it should be. Shouldn't happen there's no shoulds. There's no shoulds. I shouldn't have been paralyzed. I shouldn't have had all these things happen. I shouldn't have been abused. There's no such thing as should. When we when we work with what it is that I lay out in all my books and all my courses and all my rambling, when we start to actually work with these things, you feel it. And that's the proof. This is not just some bullshit concept, spiritual bypassing garbage. right? I embody and live this. It's in the tenor of my voice. It's the absolute truth. It's the ownership, Amrit. It's the my thoughts, and this is why traditional therapy, this is why a lot of people are going towards psychedelics for therapy, because it shoots them past personhood. It shoots them past the identification. And this is, in this sense, this is a step in the right direction. Okay? Utilizing any physical interface has limitations because you'll always be limited to the energies associated with the physical interface, which even includes psychedelics. But it's much more effective because of what we're talking about. When you go to traditional therapy, you talk about your story, my feelings, my thoughts, right? This my. That's why people go to therapy for 10 years, 20 years. Well, why didn't they fucking graduate from it? It's because they're still identifying with it. There's still ownership. That's why it's a racket. It's nonsense. And so psychedelics, and I'm not advocating psychedelics, I'm just telling metaphysically why they're more effective, is because it shoots you past personhood. It shoots you past identification to this deeper sense of self, this deeper sense of awareness. And all of a sudden you're able to let go because you realize that's not you. So that's why psychedelics can be so effective, but there's nothing more effective than working with yourself, the I am God, directly. Nothing is more effective than this. And when we work directly from this, we tangibly, not mentally or theoretically or conceptually, we tangibly know that there's no way to be traumatized, that it never occurred. The character was traumatized, but you're not the character. And this is the start of true liberation. This is the start of being able to lead the kind of life that you know that you're capable of doing. You're not holding yourself back through my, right? There's no ownership. And once you let go, you have all your energy back. You have your sovereignty. And when you have your sovereignty and your energy back, you can create anything.
It's interesting as well because one of the things that is present for me is you talk about this in chapter 13 of the book, and in many ways it's potentially the most confronting, I think. I don't know what you reckon, but it's almost like I see crocodile jaws and clenching it, like clamping down on us. And I mean, the theme kind of being that the character that we assume is actually getting more out of being traumatized in some ways than letting it go. I mean, you can't nod like that, bro. You can't nod. You say there are payoffs to your trauma. Like, why do we secretly love our wounds? What's going on there?
Yeah, this is some of the more insidious nature of the ego mind identity. So a lot of people, their longest standing relationship they have is with their trauma, their story, their illness, so that's quote unquote, that's the longest standing relationship that they have. And so letting that go is too big a blow to the ego. And so the payoff is this sense of self, even if the false sense of self, but even if it's uncomfortable and misery and agonizing, but it's still what I call a reverse dopamine hit. You're still getting this sense of yourself, right? And it becomes very addictive. And so we don't even realize that we're doing this. But yeah, for a lot of people that the payoff is bigger. We wouldn't do something if we didn't get something out of it. Right? So if you start to investigate this, you'll realize that the payoff is always the ego mind identity, this sense of self, right? And it's too big of a blow, too big of an act of destruction, of like taking the bricks away of this foundation of our false character, that we much rather have this full sense of ourself, even if it's agonizing. So we get more out of holding on to the quote unquote misery and the pain and the suffering and et cetera, because it's still feeding this sense of self, this victimhood, right? So this is why. And again, Amrit, these understandings, right, that I share and talk about, these are truly only available from a complete detachment and this much higher state of awareness or state of consciousness. The thinking mind is so far, personhood is so far downstream from the perception and the awareness that you and I are discussing. And so the whole point of why I do this, why do I write books endlessly and a book a year? I've done 50 courses, all the stuff that I do interviews. Why do I do this? Is because I want humanity to have the understanding and the awareness that the limited mind doesn't have access to. It just doesn't have access to this, right? So once we have access to what is, to the truth, this is the only time we can overcome. We can't transcend what we don't understand. We can't transcend what we don't see. So this is the motivating factor behind why do I write a book a year? Why do I teach endlessly? Why do I do a television show? Why do I do all this stuff? I want the best for humanity. There's no, and that's such an understatement. I want everyone to have a different level of understanding of themselves. But this cannot occur through the thinking mind. This is where most of us are trapped, and I understand. Most of us are trapped in our thinking mind, trying to arrange our thoughts. That's moving furniture around the same room. There's no way. You have to get in to get out. You have to completely detach. Consciousness raises. You have a completely different sense of self, right? And then you'll be able to deconstruct, or may or may not be able to deconstruct these things. But the good news is I've deconstructed. So you just follow the teachings and do as I lay out, and the quality of life increases greatly. And through an increased quality of life, we're actually going to have the evolution of consciousness with the greatest efficacy possible, because we are calling upon more of ourselves. And this is how you call upon more of yourself. It's not about thinking harder. It's not about working harder. That is not it. That's the loop. That's the matrix. This is the opposite of that. So this is the understanding that will, again, you are the sun, that you don't suffer. You're not suffering. What you want, your character does, but you're not your character. And we know that we're not our character. We know this for a fact, because you can tell me everything about Amrit. You can tell me how Amrit grew up, where Amrit went to school, when Amrit met his wife. You can tell me so much about Amrit, and the only reason why you can do that is because you're not Amrit. Because you're the awareness of everything this character is doing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to tell me jack shit about Amrit. If you were Amrit, how could you tell me about Amrit? You'd have no awareness of Amrit. You must be something else. You must be the sun. You must be the time-lapse camera. You must be the I am. And all this is about that. It's always about that. And the truth of the matter is, no one is traumatized and no one suffers. That is the truth. And the story that we tell ourselves, here's another test that we all can do. When you tell yourself, I have been victimized, I have suffered, I have been taken advantage of, do you feel better when you say that to yourself?
Oh, definitely not.
Right. So isn't that enough to not do it?
It's been pretty surprising, actually, to what you've been describing recently, because I've got, a lot on my plate with 3 little kids, and I caught myself complaining. Not about them at all, but just the workload, the balance, the juggle. It's natural. The littlest one's about 11 weeks, touch wood. And I've got a lot of compassion for myself, touch wood, which is nice. But in some moments I don't. In some moments I'm just, like, poor me. It's a bit more of a pity party. And I remember just transacting with myself and just going, you know what? I'll make you a deal. Let's just try for a week. What happens if you just don't go there? Like, you just don't go there. You just don't complain about it. Like, you're going to be doing it anyway, bro. Like, just don't go there. And it was ridiculous how much more energy I had. I like, my jaw's still, like, I still, like, thinking about it. My jaw's like, like, what is... Question for you. The ascend the frequencies healing technique, does healing become a misnomer then? Like, what's going on there with the word healing?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's completely screw with the mind right now. Okay.
Please.
So the prerequisite that I talk about with healing is that, especially if it's quite catastrophic, right? So paralysis, cancer, something, and I'm
Terminal
not talking
illness.
about
Yeah.
yeah, not a scratch on your shoulder. I'm not talking about that. In order to overcome, transcend, heal something catastrophic, right? It's gonna require you to Clark Kent it. It's going to require you to call upon more of yourself, right? Okay. You're going to have to harness the desire and intention, unify desire and intention with self. It has to be a harmonious state that is perpetual, not just in the doing state. Just let us understand that for a second. It must be a constant embodiment and frequency of healing. not just when you're actually doing something. Same with manifesting wealth, by the way. This is the big mistake the ego mind identity does, because it sees everything as separate. So it compartmentalizes and separates everything. Okay, this is incorrect. So the number one thing is we have to unify desire and intention and this frequency of healing, of completeness, of the I am, the completeness. Okay. But you also have to combine that with being at peace now. So what does this look like? So when I was told, by the way, after I had already announced that I'd heal myself in 100 days, when the surgeon finally came in, the second day or the third day or whatever in the ICU, and he told myself and my friend and the infectious disease doctor, just so you know, the damage to your spine. So I was paralyzed before I went in there. Just so you know, the damage to your spine, I've been doing this surgery for 20 years or 25 years, whatever he said, because it's impossible. The damage is done. You can't walk again. You just need to understand this. You can't do it. But hopefully you're going to live, because the infection, we took care of the infection, this and that. Okay. So I then said, to summarize, just so you know, I'm absolutely going to walk again. I guarantee it. And even if I don't, I'm at peace with everything. Amrit, it's that statement. Now, the ego mind identity can't do that, because the ego mind identity says it's this or that. It's good or it's bad. It's right or it's wrong. It's hot or it's cold. It's white or it's black. Whatever, right? It always sees things, right? It cannot hold two seemingly contradictory truths at the same time. It cannot. This is why the personhood can't heal the person. And this is why I say the soul is the cure for all that ails humanity. The I am is the cure for all that ails humanity, because it is. Because that's the wholeness. So when we start to look at something about having to Clark Kent, summon more of your true self, right? While starting from the foundation of already being at peace, right? And someone will then say to me, because I've heard it 10,000 times, how can I be at peace if I'm sick? And I'm like, okay, I understand. I've been there. I understand. But again, we're identifying with the emotions, we're identifying with the pain, we're identifying with the bodily condition. So that's why someone says, how can I be at peace if I'm in pain? Okay, you can't build upon a foundation that is already faulty. You can't heal yourself when you're starting from fear, desperation, anger. It doesn't work. People try it. It doesn't work, right? So it's these two things, holding these two things simultaneously. So now when we start to look at this, because you asked about, is healing a misnomer? Okay. So if you're already at peace now, which is the prerequisite to actually heal, who gives a shit if you actually heal, if you're already at peace now? So, right? So it's, I wrote a book on this and have all these courses on healing, and it's almost like, yeah, but if you're already at peace, well, what difference does it make? But it's only when you're at peace can you actually Clark Kent it and draw upon more of yourself.
The other thing I'm hearing in there is that healing is back to what you said earlier. It's like within the ego identity structure, is like healing is, you're almost like, I don't know, I don't want to sound like this, but rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, because it's, I don't want to sound like that, but because generally some people are like, oh, what's going on here? It's like, but this is what the conversation is alluding to. It means you can literally, like you said, psychedelics will push you out beyond the identity structure, and that's a much more supportive start. Ascend the frequencies. You literally have more identities available for you to step into that are not ailed by what this particular identity is, or you can continue varnishing the walls on something that's crumbling. Touch wood. It's, yeah.
Amrit, that's a perfect analogy. That's exactly what it is. So the version that you are today that is unwell or broke, right? That same version is never going to be well or wealthy. So we have to understand this, right? We can't drag. Okay, look at the character, the ego mind identity, the human character, right? Matter, what we call matter, is simply patterned energy. Okay, it's energy that's been going in the same pattern over and over. So matter is patterned energy. So the ego mind identity is kind of like this crystallized, solidified, all the conclusions we've come to, this solidified and crystallized version that we have of ourselves, right? Okay. So we're taking this solidified, crystallized version of ourself and we're moving it through the sea of infinite possibilities from moment to moment to moment. We're dragging the same crystallized version that is unwell and that is not wealthy. And we're dragging it into the next moment. There is no way for that crystallized version of yourself right now that is unwell or broke to actually all of a sudden become, no matter how much effort, because it's still the same version of yourself. So it's alluding to just what you were talking about. You have to transcend personhood. And we start by actually being at peace now. We started being at peace now. And this is why I always say about pretend you just arrived here, no past, no future. It's such a simple, almost like infantile imagination kind of thing, right? It is so profound and so effective. It's mind-boggling. When you pretend you just arrived here, no past, no future, you're instantly present. The crystallization has stopped. Now from here, this is actually how you can do anything from that state. Because the I am is infinite abundance in all its forms, including limitation, which sounds weird, but including limitation. But when you pretend you just arrived here, no past, no future, and you start fresh with humility, there's nothing that you can't do. But you cannot. This is one of the main things that I talk about when I teach a healing course or a manifestation course. The version that you are today that is unwell and not wealthy is never going to be well or healthy or wealthy, because if it was going to, you'd already do it. You'd already have it. You'd already be it. So we have to stop taking this crystallized version, moving it through the sea of infinite possibilities. We have to start fresh. We have to start with humility. And this is why unifying desire, intention, and the self with whatever that is, health, wealth, it doesn't matter what it is. We embody that frequency, not just in the doing state. So we are now emanating this, and the universe must match it. It must. It's the only thing it does. The universe says yes to whatever the hell you're emanating. Yes. You're right. Yes. Whatever that is, right? And then you're at peace. And you're at peace. Now you can call upon all of yourself. Everything's on the table if you're at peace. Everything's available to you. These two things is the hidden magic. Alchemy. This is the hidden magic and alchemy for transformation and manifestation. There's a lot more to it than those two things. But when we start with those two things, Amrit, we're now at the plate with our bat, and we're capable now of hitting a home run. We're capable. This crystallized version of ourself that we were before is not capable of doing it because that crystallized version would have already done it. Not capable. So these two things. So we come back to, I don't know how long I've been rambling, but I know that you said about healing, right?
Yeah.
It's an embodiment and then being at peace, right? It's like you can't even enjoy the process of healing if you're not at peace now. How can you enjoy anything? And what difference does it make if you get an end result and you were miserable the whole fucking time? What difference does that make then? Where's your quality of life? Right? If you're just a maniac and upset and angry and you make everyone else's life around you, your wife, your husband, your kids, you make them all miserable because you're miserable. And once you feel better, then it'll be okay. Well, even if you get there, where's the quality of life that whole period? It's like getting in the car and you're obsessed with getting to Disneyland and it's a 3-hour ride. So you're going to be a tyrant for those 3 hours? And have a miserable time, make everyone else have a miserable time. You can't enjoy the ride, right? So it's a different way to look at it, but this different way of looking at it, this is actually what works.
Yeah, I couldn't help but reflect on, and it's going to sound, I'm bringing up Tony Robbins, but anyway, Tony Robbins, not that there's anything wrong with Tony Robbins, but given just the depth of the conversation we're in, feels a bit 3D. But also, he does spend a whole seminar pumping you up for 10 hours just to get you into a state, right? Walk over coals, do your breath work, get really gassed up so you can unleash into a whole new state from which you then do a 20-minute, 30-minute visualization exercise, right? And then you can visualize, right? But he spends a lot more time working on your state than the actual exercise itself.
This is the only issue with that is that is temporary. This is the issue with, and I've never attended any of this stuff. So this is very, that is temporary. And that has to do with motivation from an outside source. So
Mm.
you can't rely on motivation that's not coming from within you to actually carry. This means you're not really embodying, and that's why it's temporary. And that's why it lasts. It's probably effective. Probably. I don't really know. Probably effective metaphysically. I could see it being effective for a couple of weeks and maybe a month or so, but then it's not going to be effective. Because it is just that. It's a temporary heightened emotional state. And then you return to the crystallized version that you were before, right? So then it just wears off. So we must change the version of ourselves. And this has to do with deprogramming. This has to do with the subconscious mind. 95% of our reality is created through our subconscious. Our thinking mind has so little effect on the reality we create. And the same with the emotions. At very little effect. We think it's a big deal because that's the only thing we have access to using our conscious mind. So we make a big deal out of it, but it's not the case. It's the subconscious that is creating reality. And this requires actual inner investigation.
Hey there, Inspired Souls. Today's conversation's been an absolute, oh my God, so grateful. Now, if you want support in reading your own chart, understand yourself better through the lens of astrology, or even have a look at what's coming up at this time for you, or both, you can book in a reading with myself, amritsandhu.com/reading, amritsandhu.com/reading. Touchwood, it'd be my absolute honor and pleasure to support you with that awareness at this time, if you feel the call. Would you be willing to open us up into the meditation, that the self is a meditation where the eyes are not connected to the brain? Can you guide me and everybody else listening to it at this time to get a taste of that I am, please?
Okay, so Amrit, most of us have been told that this meditation, right, it's difficult. We try to do it, or, there's all these different techniques and so on and so forth, right? Well, this is a radical, again, just a radical different understanding of what meditation actually is, right? For most of us, it's the ego mind identity that is trying to meditate for a variety of reasons. One, so maybe it can just check that box off that it accomplished this, right? So it's kind of like another
habit
task.
tracker. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, okay. Now remember, the ego mind identity, the only thing it can't have is peace. So it's always because it's always a push-pull between being incomplete, which fuels past, future. So the ego mind identity is always seeking something, whether it's entertainment or adrenaline or peace or it's something. It's constant appetite, constant. So that's really the one who's looking to meditate. So that might trigger a few people, but that's really it's really the truth. Okay. So what I've discovered is that the self, the I am, the soul, whatever word you want to use, right, is meditation. The self is meditation because the self comes before thoughts. The self comes before emotions, before the body, before the incarnation. So the self is meditation. You are meditation. So this alone starts to shift things, right? It's not something to be worked upon. It's just letting go of everything you're putting your attention on other than the self. Now, there's a couple of instantaneous ways that we can go right into meditation. So one of those ways is that if we simply pretend our physical eyes are not connected to our brain, and as we view, we're not analyzing. So if it's disconnected from the programmed mind, it's not analyzed, it's not going chair, TV remote, water, phone. I'm not talking about that. If the eyes are disconnected from the brain, there's no analysis going on. It's pure awareness. Now, if you do that correctly, thoughts stop. Now, if you continue with this, then how long did that take? 1 second. That's because the self is meditation, right? So it took 1 second. So, my friend, if we simply continue with what is, if we simply continue being the self, which doesn't require an effort because we just learned meditation in 1 second, right? Being yourself doesn't require an effort. A dog doesn't have to try to be a dog. It's a dog. You don't have to try to be yourself. You are yourself. Your effort isn't trying to be your character, which is why it's so difficult, right? So now that we pretend that our eyes are not connected to our brain, there's no analysis going on, pure perception. Now, what you may, if you start to relax in this, right, not tense because, oh, this is cool, I get it, but just kind of relax, you may literally start to feel some kind of presence in the center of your chest. And again, you're not thinking, eyes not connected to the brain, just awareness. You'll actually start to feel something right in the center of the chest. That's you. That's the I am. That's where the I am sits when we are incarnate between the heart and the spine. You are now directly connected to the self. It is the normalization of this effortless state that will actually bring about all your wisdom, all your power, all the attributes and qualities that are required to lead the most successful life will actually flow from this, not from anything else. So meditation, you are meditation. All you have to do is realize the truth and just pretend your eyes are not connected to your brain. So you can also call this a soft gaze. So soft gaze is another way of saying you're not analyzing what your eyes are falling upon. They're not analyzing. You're not labeling, right? There's no liberation of consciousness through the labeling of consciousness, right? So you are now liberating your consciousness. And it took 1 second to do it. Now it's just the normalization of this. So remember we talked about the shaken snow globe, the snow falling, can't see shit, trying to figure everything out. Vision is terrible. If your vision is terrible and you're trying to figure out, you're never going to get to the conclusion until when? Until everything has settled down. So this is being the unshaken snow globe. And this is when your wisdom can speak to you, your intuition, your inner knowingness can speak to you loud and clear. In fact, it's the only voice you'll actually hear. And it'll speak to you in a language that isn't really words. It'll speak to you in energy that gets decoded. It's a higher frequency. You will decode what it is that it's saying, and then it will form within you as thoughts or knowings. So this is the opposite. This is the opposite of typically the way a human being operates, because everything we've been told is absolutely effing wrong for a reason. And because our 5 senses are outwardly focused, we think everything is outside of us. Everything is inside of you. The outside world is an illusion. And once this shift, look how easy we can do this in 1 second, right? No effort. Once this shift becomes the inward focus, this is where the life of your dreams resides within you. And all we do are very specific exercises and protocols, actions, because only actions create change. Only actions create change, not mental understanding. That's worth shit. Only actions. Different sense of self will allow you to take different actions, and your different actions will get you different results. 1, 2, 3. That's it. That's it. This is the key to success. Now, depending upon success is personal happiness, which means how authentic you actually are, how in tune you are with your true self. That's happiness. And if you're truly happy, you have succeeded. And who cares what other people think? Who cares what other people think? If you're happy, what difference does it make? You won't care at all. At all. And when you don't care what other people think, is be the first time that you'll feel like this is your life. You don't care. Doesn't matter, right? And if you're happy, why would you care? So very simple. And this 1 second meditation, Amrit, as you know, I have a laundry list of these one
A
second
litany.
meditations. A
Litany.
litany, yes, a plethora, a myriad. So we have all these different, because it's so simple, because we already are the meditation. So all we have to do is drop in, and we can do it in 1 second. And truly the life of our dreams is within there. It is not out there.
Because one of the things you teach is letting go is not a process. One of the claims is that students have dropped lifelong trauma patterns in singular moments. I mean, can you tell us about one? What happened to a person somewhere in a room? Can you give us an example? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, these are. I'll try not to get emotional because I've worked with a lot of people for a very long time, and when it comes to health, I mean, in general, the people that come to me are very, very troubled, right? So they're suffering from lifelong pain, lifelong anxiety, depression, all sorts of things. Um, so remember we talked about before the crystallized version of yourself, right? Okay. So when we recognize, when it becomes into the conscious awareness, right, that we are not the trauma, which is what I wrote You Are the Sun all about, so we can liberate ourselves. When you actually have the tangible realization, right, the crystallized version has stopped. It stops because the energy is not running in the same pattern. It literally just stops. And there was one lady that comes to mind the first time you said that she had been suffering from PTSD. She had a very, very, not being specific, she had a terrible marriage. And you can imagine all the things that went on with that, right? Okay. So she had been suffering from uh, PTSD. I think it was 25 years or 30 years, either one, whatever. And we were in person. This was at a retreat. And I had her go through some of the stuff that we just did with the meditation, right? The recognition that you're the awareness of everything, right? Not what you're aware of, right? And all of a sudden, it was known that she wasn't the one who was traumatized, the character. She was simply awareness that was untouched by it. It was tangible, it wasn't a mental understanding. And she said it was like something got unplugged and then she got rearranged. It's like all the electricity of the patterned energy of the identification, my trauma, my this, my that. She said it was like it just got literally unplugged and everything just got rearranged. She's like, it was just gone. She's like, it's gone. It's gone. I've never felt like this. It's been like 30 years. I've never felt like this. So letting go is not a process. The letting go is for the ego mind identity so it can turn it into a process so we can hang on longer. That's the truth about the process. That's bullshit. That's a way for the EMI to keep lingering. Hey, this Amrit, this is going to take a long time now. So this is a process here, right? So we're going, no, absolutely not. When you work with the truth, there is no process. It's tangible and it's immediate. And that's how you know you're working with the truth. Processes for ego mind identity. It loves processes because it continues to endure.
Draw it out.
Yeah, that's so everything for the EMI. Oh, this is a process. Well, no, it isn't. It's not. It doesn't have to be, right? So letting go. This I've seen this with healing, not just mental and emotional. I've seen this with physical healing as well. Instantaneous. Instantaneous. This is possible. I have played the healer in many instantaneous healings. Many. It's that crystallized pattern energy. Once you unplug that, the energy is no longer patterning in the same way. It's gone. Just gone. This is true metaphysics, my friend. This is how things actually are, right? Not downstream. This is how things are at their core.
Why does I played the healer go in bunny quotes?
because all healing, because all healing is self-healing.
Mm.
That's the truth. RJ or whoever, right? Permission slips.
Conditions.
Yeah, my teachings, RJ, it's a permission slip for you to let go. Now, we might not know how to really let go, and this is absolutely true. We might not truly know how to deeply let go, right? Most of us, it's just kind of like surface. And so that's why, because it's all the energy is trapped in personhood, right? And so we need to go. So many of us don't really know how to let go, and that's okay. So that's why I point out how to do it and I embody what I embody. And so this gives people permission to actually let go. But RJ is a permission slip. My teachings are a permission slip. They are the user manual for you to lead your greatest life. But it's not no one heals anybody. This is just not true. Let me be very specific. I've done too many healings to count, not just as RJ, too many healings to count. Okay. So what can take place is a truly powerful healer can move energy without question. Okay. Can move energy and can start to remove within the gross physical and subtle bodies of energy, can start to remove what is not what is, or what does not belong there, if that makes sense. Okay. So we can start to move the energy, and a real healer can absolutely do this, right? Okay. That ain't it. The so-called patient must then reclaim themselves. They must then reclaim what was lost. And without the reclaiming, there is no healing. So there's no such thing as someone healing someone else. I've never healed anybody else. I can definitely move energy without question, and all these other things without question. But until someone reclaims themselves, there's no healing. All healing is self-healing. And if anybody says I can heal you of that, they're full of shit. They don't know what they're actually talking about. They don't really know. Because if they really know, they would never say they have healed somebody. That is not what takes place. It is always self-healing, and the individual must always reclaim themselves.
I've got the luxury of having known you quite well, so I can tell when you've got. I can tell how passionate you are about this, and also that there's a whole industry that you're staring at when you're saying that. But I won't get
Yes,
into all
yeah.
of that with you right now. There is a line in the book, and there is a theme in the book of you chose this. And I mean, we're in a podcast, so we have to ask this question. I mean, how can someone hold that when their trauma is something like childhood abuse? You know, you say you chose this like to someone like that. I mean, it's some people like that's hard to stomach.
It is, and I understand. But we're not talking about the human perspective. And I totally get it. And I have been there too. I know what that's like personally as well. Okay. When we when we come here, we have a plan. We call this the life plan. Okay. We have a script. You can go off script and you can improvise. So let's all make sure. I know I'm kind of going off for a second, but I want to make sure people understand. You got a script, but you can improvise, right? You can do better than the script. You can do worse too, right? It's all what you do once you're here. That's when it doesn't matter how good the life plan is or how shitty the life plan is. The only thing that matters is how you work with yourself when you're here. Okay, so childhood abuse. Why the hell would anyone ever sign up for that? Okay, when you are planning a life, planning an experience, you're not viewing it from a human perspective. So this is the first thing that we have to understand. We're applying a limited beginning end perspective that is based upon pain pleasure, right? Okay. This has got nothing to do with what is. This is very far downstream from what is. So the soul wants to experience everything it possibly can so we can understand its limitless nature. So it will choose things that a human being would say, well, that's horrible. Okay, but that's not the one that's choosing from that perspective. When you actually make this choice, you're not choosing that. You're choosing experience so you can experience more of yourself. This is just something that's available in the lower frequencies of the physical universe and some frequencies above where we are. For all of you wishing once we go into 5D, all this will stop. You're delusional. There's a whole nother matrix waiting for you on many different frequencies. So people choose this because as they're choosing it, it's not viewed from a human perspective. It's simply an experience. It's not good. It's not bad. It's not right. It's not wrong. This is also a way to work out things with certain individuals, to work things out. It's a much more accelerated way to work out things with an individual when it's highly, highly intense. So you can go from A to Z, quote unquote, much faster, right? Because incarnations have a beginning and an end, right? The soul doesn't have a beginning and an end, right? It creates incarnations, right? We must go to what gives birth to beginnings and endings to understand beginnings and endings. So it can accelerate its own evolution. It can accelerate working through certain situations if it's highly intense. So it's a couple of different things, as I've just rambled about, right? It's a way to work through things fast. It doesn't view things as right or wrong. And some souls choose this because it's only through physical incarnation can you actually have these experiences. You can't have it any other way. And there is something to learn from these experiences. And what does that look like? What the hell do we learn from being abused as a child, right? Okay. Well, you leave here with a much more tender heart and a stronger back because of what you've been through. That's why you do it. That's why I do it. So someone else doesn't have to endure it because you're wiser, stronger, and more compassionate for going through it. That's why you do it. And you're sparing someone else from having to go through it too, because it's all one thing. So I don't have to lead Amrit's life to be able to participate in what it is that you evolved, how you evolved, the wisdom and the love that's accrued. I don't have to be Amrit. We don't understand this. We don't get this. We don't get this. And you can't get that. You can't really understand this when you're temporarily individualized, because the consciousness is so identified with physical sensory perception and the limited data stream that comes in. We're not participating in hyperfrequential or even hyperdimensional perception and awareness. So we have no understanding of any of these things that I'm rambling on and on about. But we choose these things very specifically. It is not random. God does not play dice, neither do you. So we all learn the consciousness, the sentience that is evolved through a lifetime of being a billionaire is equal to the sentience that is accrued and evolved through a lifetime of being a beggar. We don't understand these things. And so that's why we say, why would I have a childhood lifetime of abuse? Because the sentience that is accrued is equal to and not better or worse than a lifetime of a beautiful childhood, a loving child. So when we cease to view things through the human lens, which is a very limited, and I understand why we do it, of course right? But we start to tap into the truth. We start to understand ourselves better. We start to understand what choices are even available to us. Because right now, many of us may feel like we don't have any choices. And choosing to think that is a choice.
Yeah, you always get me with those ones. It's like, you are free to choose to think that you're not free. Oh, that one has never left me, RJ. That one, you've got so much freedom that you can think that you're not free, bro. I was like, oh.
Yeah. It's a mind bender. But it's true. It's true though.
Halfway through this book, does it take a turn? It doesn't take a turn. It blooms and blossoms in this really interesting place. But I mean, you say narcissists are not human in the way that we understand human. Sorry for laughing through that question. It's just, it's so audaciously revolutionary to what everybody understands as the narcissist to be. You say they're a separate genre of being. Can you take it from the top, man? I mean,
Yeah. So they are catalysts of evolution. So that's the first thing I want us to understand, is that they cause so much chaos and disharmony that they force us to Clark Kent it, if that makes sense. Anyone who's had a relationship with a narcissist or knows a narcissist, right? They are, from a human perspective, there's nothing worse. There's nothing
but they're
worse.
pulling the best out of you.
Yeah, you said it, my friend. Okay, so if we dive in, so if we looked at a narcissist and not through limited physical sensory perception, we would actually be able to feel, because they have a very different wavelength. What they are is because we're all the sentience given energy to create. So we all have a very specific wavelength into what we are. So narcissists have a very specific wavelength. Now, to give it the context, I talk about in the book, right? Most of us know what a higher self is, right? So if you think of an octopus and its tentacles, right? So I'm a tentacle of my higher self, an aspect of soul. You are a tentacle of your higher self, and everyone and everything is a tentacle. In the physical universe, we are projections from a higher self that exists much higher dimensionally and frequentially. And so it's like the octopus wants to know what the water is like way down here, right? In the lower frequencies of the physical universe, it projects an aspect of what we call a soul into the physical universe so we can actually have this experience, and puts itself in stasis so it can evolve through its projections, or almost like hibernation, right? Okay. So if we looked at, and I'm not talking about someone who just has narcissistic traits. Not talking about that. Forget that. I'm talking about a narcissist. I'm talking about a real narcissist. Okay. They are very different. They were created very differently, right? So if we look at this genre of higher selves, there's rocks, minerals, one genre, and then they project aspects of themselves. And it's always sentience and energy is always in a 1-to-1 ratio. So you can kind of see just by what I'm saying, rocks and minerals have no energy. They cannot animate. Okay. So it starts to make sense for the mind to understand this, right? So the lowest levels, rocks, minerals, they have no energy. They're not animated. They don't quote unquote move on their own. Okay. The next genre is plants and insects. Okay. Plants and insects move. Okay. So now we're looking at a different level of sentience, right? And again, it's like pound of sugar, pound of butter. My wife just made cookies, so I'm thinking about the cookies. So now we have pound of sugar, pound of butter.
Yum.
So we have sentience, sentience and energy. Peanut butter cookies. So it's driving me crazy that I'm
Oh
sitting here not
no.
eating them.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
with the Reese's Pieces in the
Oh, she
cookies.
needs to stop.
Come on. Okay. So if we look at plants and insects, a little more sentience, little energy, and they're able to move. The next genre up would be animals. Now, obviously, we see a level of intelligence, we see the energy, we see the movement, right? Okay. Just above animals is our favorite genre of being narcissists. And then I'll come back to it. And then above narcissists are humans and aliens, the sentience that operates within human form or alien form. So we have rocks, minerals, plants, insects. Oh my God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That looks delightful. That looks like a party waiting to happen.
Right? Right? So wait, so I just gotta share this. I know we digress, but there's the Reese's Pieces aren't available in Oman.
Oh.
So a friend of mine actually went to Dubai and went to all these different locations and bought like 20 boxes of Reese's Pieces
Oh,
and
just for
brought them
you
back
guys.
and brought them back.
Oh,
Yeah. So
that is
amazing,
sweet.
right?
That is sweet.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. So we have
That
rocks,
person's
minerals,
definitely not a narcissist.
definitely not. No, definitely not.
Sorry, just to
Yeah. No,
segue
this is a
back in.
good,
Just to segue
this is
back
a good friend. Okay. So
in.
rocks, minerals, plants, insects, animals, narcissists, human, alien. So narcissists in terms of sentience is just above the level of, so animals have a very narrow focus, right? We can think of it this way, right? They're not interested in philosophy for the most part. They're not interested in philosophy or method acting or Picasso painting, right? So
Existence. Yeah.
yeah, they have a very limited or narrow bandwidth that they're interested in. Okay, so narcissists, now really start to let this land. Narcissist is only slightly above that. So let this land, only slightly above that. Some of them are very adept within the physical universe, very adept within the physical universe, right? And then above them are human and aliens, those the sentience and energy that operates within the vehicle. So the vehicle has to match the level of sentience and energy. It has to match up. Otherwise, it's like you would not incarnate as an ant. That physical vehicle doesn't allow you to be able to utilize your level of sentience and energy. So a narcissist is just above an animal, which is why they can operate with no empathy. It's why they can do terrible things. It's why gang members operate still like they're in a pack because they're just above the animal the way that they operate. So they lack. I shouldn't even say lack because that makes it sound like they're missing something. They were actually created perfectly for the role that they play. So scratch that. They don't lack. They don't have the same level of sentience. So therefore, they don't operate with things like empathy, remorse. They have a hard time thinking in the future because the appetite has to be satiated in the moment, right? So they are capable of operating in a way that you or me literally cannot operate because our depth would prevent us from doing things that a narcissist would do because the narcissist doesn't have that depth. Serial killers and so on and so forth. We think serial killers are created. This is incorrect. They put themselves in environments where they can actually become full-fledged in terms of who and what they really are. This is why they have no remorse. They have no conscience. They can do something terrible, then go out to eat. It's like, whatever, right? So they are literally a different genre of being, and they're here to force us to Clark Kent in the fastest way possible. And they're the ones that are here soaking up the matrix so we don't have to. So we can move on. So actually, we need to, I know this sounds crazy. I'm telling you the truth from a metaphysical perspective. We all need to thank the narcissist because it's a thankless job and they don't realize what they are. They have no idea about any of the stuff that we're talking about. They're operating in the way that they were designed to operate. And the way that they were designed to operate is perfect in terms of their place as it pertains to the evolution of consciousness. They force you and me to Clark Kent and evolve in the fastest way possible, and they soak up the matrix. They are the ones accruing all these karmic ties. They're the ones causing all this big cause and effect. But the kicker is this: we're the ones responsible for their karma. We have to burn off what it is that they're addicted to. This is the trade-off.
What?
No one, no one likes to hear this. Yeah, exactly. No one likes to hear this. RJ,
It went from
no.
like revelatory to controversial really fast. Just there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So, but if you step back,
Mm.
okay, and we start to understand the role that they're playing, they are definitely the quote unquote bad guy. Okay, they are the bad guy or bad lady or whatever, right? They are definitely doing that. They're causing havoc. They're getting addicted, drugs, sex, power, money. You know what? Inflicting pain. There's all this addiction, right? But they're doing this so we can get the best out of ourselves and that we don't have to soak up the matrix. So we don't get stuck here. So we don't. So the trade off is that we have to burn off their karma because they're literally doing this for us, for our evolution. Now, I understand if you asked a narcissist, are you doing this for me? The answer is the opposite. They don't give a shit about you, no matter what they say, right? We know this. I'm talking about what's way beyond their comprehension. So the kicker is they act as a catalyst, and anyone who's spent time with a narcissist knows exactly what I'm talking about. And we've all spent time with a narcissist. We all know what they're like. Boy, do they make you go in and evolve yourself. Otherwise, you're gonna lose it. You're gonna lose it. So they serve their purpose perfectly. The balance is all the karma we have to work off. So they are a different genre of being. They are not capable of love. They are not capable of evolving. For those of you in a relationship with a narcissist, or those of you that care about a narcissist, you can have compassion and love them from a distance. Do you hear me, everybody? From a distance. Okay? They are what they are. They're not capable of operating another way. They're not, right? So you can continue to wish them well and help them, but do it from a great distance. But this is what a narcissist is. I'm not talking about someone with selfish tendencies, or that's not what I mean. A full-on narcissist is just above an animal, and beneath human alien. And they are their own genre of being, and they are catalysts of chaos and pain, which then makes us Clark Kent and evolve faster. And that's the role that they play. And they're only here one time. That's the other thing too. Narcissists, the higher selves that's projecting this genre, or the genre of higher selves that are projecting aspects of themselves, are not in the evolutionary cycle in regards to incarnation. It's a one-time thing. They play a very specific role, a very specific purpose, and they do it very well. And that higher self that's projecting the aspects that are narcissists, that higher self is not projecting pieces of itself into the cycle of incarnations for evolutionary purposes. Those higher selves are evolving through everyone else's evolution because it's all one thing. So they're evolving through the evolution of you and I in terms of what we have to quote unquote do to move past the agents of chaos and pain, which are the narcissists.
There's a lot in there. I mean, their karmic tab thing is still going to be something that I'm going to have to think. There is a devil's advocate question here, though.
Yeah.
In history, there has been plenty of groups that have declared other groups less than human, and it has never gone well. What you're saying here, narcissists of less sentience,
Yeah.
different, like, how is that different from dehumanization? Because, I mean, some of the listeners will run away with this and start weaponizing this label against every difficult ex they've got. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. No, I understand. Okay. So no one is actually, so when I say less than human, I want us to understand less sentience. And again, when I talk about lacking, I said that's the wrong way to say it because they were created perfectly. Okay. So a human being is
Because
just
you
a
call them
suit.
the ascended masters of the EMI. I think that was a very interesting way of putting it as well.
Yeah. They have taken low frequency ways of operating to ascended master levels of operating in a low frequency way. They are the ascended masters of the ego mind identity, of operating in a low frequency way. They have mastered, right? Operating in this way, which is why they're so effective at what they do. So when I talk about less than human and then not treating them as human, anyone who's wearing a human suit is human temporarily, but the human is the suit. No one is actually human, just like no one is actually a dog, no one is actually a plant, right? That's the biological garment that is adorned over the I am temporarily to have a physical incarnation, right? So no one is actually human, it's a suit, right? It's temporary. So anyone that is wearing a human suit for intents and purposes is having a human incarnation, and everyone should be treated the same way. That so and that's a good question that you asked, so people understand that. This doesn't mean treat narcissists less than you would want yourself to be treated. But make no mistake about it. Anyone who treats a narcissist with an open heart is going to get hurt. And most of us can attest to this. This is not, we know this. They operate differently. They're here for a different reason, but they are not to be abused or treated like animals or anything. No, no. Anyone wearing a human suit is a human being temporarily. Human being is just a suit, Amber. That's all it is. Right. We pop into this thing and we're going to leave it. No one is actually this. No, nobody. Just like your shirt and your pants, your shorts, or whatever. You're not your shirt and pants. You're temporarily wearing them, for sure. Yeah, but eventually, you're going to change. You're going to shed it, right? And eventually, it's the same thing with this. So for the time being, if you're wearing a human suit, you're a human being, and that's where the equality can stay consistent.
How does someone know that they're dealing with a true narcissist or whether it's just a wounded human being on the other side of that?
Okay, there's two ways. Okay, one would be if you're actually able to see uh, in this way, which is probably not. So that probably doesn't help, right? Because they actually, you can. It's different. It's a different wave. It feels
For those that are
different.
tuning into the audio, RJ's holding up his hand and pointing to wave-like frequencies. He can see the frequencies of the being. Yeah, sorry, just lots of people
Yeah,
listen on
yeah,
the
yeah.
audio on Spotify, and sorry, yeah, just being mindful. Sorry, please continue.
Okay. The To know if someone is a true narcissist, you would probably have to spend some time with them, and you'd have to understand that they have an insatiable appetite for your energy, and I mean insatiable. And they will say, do, and act in ways that you can't imagine in order to keep siphoning off life force, in order to keep getting your energy. They will play the victim, they will play the hero. They'll play the rational person, they'll play the irrational person. They will do acts of generosity and seem magnanimous, and they can also turn around and do things that are absolutely horrible and so vindictive you actually can't believe it. They will run the entire circuitry because the whole thing is to feed a hole within them that must continue to feed on your life force. And only a true narcissist operates this way. So we think of maybe as a narcissist as someone that's just all the time terrible. This is not true. This is absolutely not true. A narcissist can act in a generous way, can offer help, but the whole time they're calculating, right? Their love is never actual love, right? It's conditional and they have you on a leash. So to know if someone is a true narcissist, it is 100% about the consumption of your energy in various different forms. And they may seem like they care about you. They may even do things that there's no other way to interpret it. Well, that was really nice of him. That was really nice of her. I got news for you. There's going to be something on the other end of that. I guarantee it. There'll be something on the other end of that. So they must feed. They must have your energy in all different forms. In all different forms. So true narcissists are not to be trusted. And true narcissists, if you let them into your life, you must now understand that they are here to cause havoc. They're here to cause damage, to force you to grow. But a true narcissist can be nice for a moment. A true narcissist can be terrible for a moment and then switch personas. They're master manipulators. I mean, master manipulators. Many of the great actors of our time are narcissists. I'm not going to name names. Many of the great actors of our times are narcissists. Many of these very powerful politicians are narcissists. Many of these big CEOs worth billions of dollars, narcissists. The insatiable desire for energy, for attention, for stuff, affection, money, things, whatever. It's endless. It's endless. And remember I said earlier, Emmet, some of them are very, very adept at quote unquote being successful if the way that this so-called world culture is set up for us to determine what successful actually is, lots of money or being famous or this or that. I mean, that's not success. But this world culture was really devised in a very parasitical way. And so narcissists often thrive within this world culture because it's based upon attention. That's why the book before You Are the Sun was The Law of Attention. So we understand what that is. That attention is energy. And when you give something or someone attention, you're giving it energy, you're feeding it. And that's how dystopian timelines are built. That's how all these different things are built. It's through attention. So master manipulators, and they will do anything, say anything, do anything, even be kind or atrocious, because it's all serving a purpose for them to feed. That's the underlying way in which they operate, to feed.
Ultimately, for you to graduate into a place where, and this is, you heard me say this at the tip of the podcast, gratitude is the graduation. I've jumped over a step around boundaries, but you mentioned keep them at bay, so I'm taking the liberty there. It's pretty clear that boundaries are fundamentally important here. And then if you can graduate past there, apparently gratitude for the service that they're playing. I mean, that's talk about ascending the frequencies. There's a lot of compassion that is required of an individual to land in that place, mate. That's huge.
Yeah.
Um,
And by the way, Emirates, so that gratitude, that graduation, like when we graduate high school or college, whatever, you don't, after you graduate, you don't then turn around and say, I'd like to take 10th grade English again. Who the hell does that? Okay. So in other words, when you've run the gamut with this narcissist, right? It's over. It's over. It doesn't mean now you invite them back in again. Everyone. You don't take 10th grade English again and again and again, right? No. So it's that once you feel a sense of gratitude that you've come out the other end, it's over. It's over. It's time to move on. You don't invite them back in. That's why I said before that if you do actually care about them, you do actually love, and it's possible to have love for a narcissist. It absolutely is. You do it from a distance. You do it from a distance because you've graduated, and the gratitude is that they have actually accelerated your evolution. They have helped you Clark Kent it, as I like to say, but you don't dip your toes back into that water once you've graduated. And once you feel a sense of gratitude that you, for what it is that they did and the way that you have operated, the way that you've improved yourself, that's when you know it's over.
You mentioned that they don't incarnate from life to life. I mean, I'm probably jumping a little bit. Does that imply that there may not be a soul attached to that being? There probably is, right? But it's just not a reincarnating one.
Yeah. So, okay. So we think, or what we've been told is that, and it's only what we have access to through physical sensory perception. So of course it makes sense. And that we assume that the only way to evolve is through incarnating. This is Nothing could be further from the truth. Only about 12% from my direct tangible experience of this stuff, only about 12% of existence actually ever incarnates. The other 88% is evolving through its assistance in relation to the 12% that actually does incarnate. So the overwhelming of what is, the overwhelming majority of what is, never evolves itself through incarnation. Now, because we're in a finite system within our physical sensory perception, and therefore the intellect, which is the data stream that comes in, which is 0.0003 of what is comes through the physical senses. So that's how limited our mental understanding and intellect is of actually what is. So the vast majority of what is never incarnates. It's one of a billion ways consciousness can evolve itself. Just one of a billion. Probably more. I'm just using the term billion. But we can't see into this for the right. So we don't understand. So because incarnation is so challenging, right? With great challenge comes reward. You can evolve your consciousness in ways through incarnation that you can't otherwise, right? It's like you've heard me say this when the high diving, like in the Olympics, right?
Mm-hmm.
If someone does a swan dive, right? Even if it's flawless, it's like, well, 7, maybe 7.5. Why? Well, it's an easy dive. I mean, it's a swan dive, right? But someone gets up there and does this triple backwards somersault flip, right? And they do a good job with it. Wasn't perfect. Do it. That's a 9, 9.5 maybe, degree of difficulty, right? So it's the risk reward. So it's so difficult, requires such courage to incarnate. Truly, human beings are never give themselves enough credit for the courage that it takes to actually put on this suit and go far away from what you're used to, far away from oneness, far away from having access to everything. It takes tremendous courage to do this, really. So the overwhelming majority of the population doesn't incarnate, but those that do can evolve their consciousness far greater through the incarnation. And remember, it's all one thing. So everything is evolving, right? We have this kind of separate mindset. There's me, and then there's Amrit, and then there's, my dog and whatever. Well, not really. It's not really how things are, right? So the narcissists, the higher selves that project aspects of themselves that are narcissists, they will continue to evolve. They just won't evolve through the evolutionary cycle of incarnation, but they
Right.
will absolutely continue to evolve.
Right. You also map the seven deadly sins onto the
Mm.
seven chakras. I love it when you do stuff like this. I'm just gonna call it. We've done. Yeah. It's when stuff like this happens, and only you do cool stuff like this. I mean, I'm sure there's other teachers out there that I haven't had the luxury of interacting with, but I'm being, making you modest for your own sake. I don't know why. But the seven deadly sins onto the seven chakras: lust for the root, gluttony for the sacral, greed for the solar plexus, envy for the heart, wrath for the throat, sloth for the third eye, and pride for the crown. And you take it further. You don't just discuss these and explain that these can be mapped. I mean, you go further to explain how each one blocks health, blocks material wealth. Um, this is, I mean, this is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I want human beings to see the correlation. Like nothing happens in a vacuum, right? So if we're having issues in our life, whether it's health or wealth, I mean, there is a cause or a reason, and it's never just one thing, but there is a cause or a reason for this. And if we can start to address ourselves the way that the books and the classes and courses lay out, we're going to lead a superior quality of life. And the only thing I'm interested in is the evolution of consciousness, the greatest efficacy of the evolution of consciousness possible, which includes the highest quality of life. And so human beings getting a proper education is paramount. And so when we start to understand the chakra system and we start to understand the seven deadly sins, and we start to see how this is directly related to health and wealth, then we can start to do something about it, because we can't overcome or transcend what we don't see or what we don't understand. They're directly related. Absolutely related. And those that can see chakras that are damaged, that are droopy, that don't fully extend, that have entities attached to them, et cetera, et cetera. And this will translate into just what we talked about, the seven deadly sins. This will translate into issues with health and wealth, interpersonal relationships. So I mean, nothing happens in a vacuum. So, and there's a course. There's a course that I created too. That's Master of the Mystic Arts. Goes along with the understanding that I put in this book. So I did a whole course on it as well. So yeah, it's definitely a perspective I don't think I've ever heard before, but it's just as you said, it's truly informative, and you'll start to understand where you're blocked. If you understand where you're blocked, you can do something about it. That's all that matters to me, is that we can do something about it. We can improve the quality of our life.
And
But
so
the chakras,
a
yeah,
shadow drive in one of those centers indicates a block. Like if I can feel greed, does that mean there must be a block or something's up with the chakra and I can learn to work with the
it
chakra to heal?
it could, yes, but it could be more than that, Emmerich. It could also be too much attention on it as well, and it starts to develop. There could be an attachment there. There could be damage there. There could be a block there. So it's never like, oh, this is this, right? Excuse me. There can be multiple things there without question. But I can tell you, if there's an over or an imbalance, we'll say it this way, if there's an imbalance of that, it means something is going on. Something is going on. And if you even think of acupuncture, so acupuncture, by the way, was
Mm.
given to us by a genre of being, a race of being, what we would call alien. They, by the way, they came right out of the water, and they operate up into what I call the fifth frequency, what people call the fifth dimension. Is incorrect. They can see in their normal state up to the fifth frequency. So they see the meridians in their normal vision, even though they're incarnate within our realm, so to speak. So they gave us this map of the human form that details up into the fifth frequency. That's why they can see the meridians. They talk about the chakras because they can see them, right? So that's why they offer the guidance. If you do this or you do this, because there's a block within the meridian. The chakra is damaged. There's an issue with this because they actually have that sight. So they have that knowledge. So this is kind of the same thing, what I'm doing, but it's significantly beyond the fifth frequency. So I want people to be able to understand why they're having problems with their health or their wealth, why they're having problems with their interpersonal relationships, because it relates to the chakra system. And we can associate these blocks or inefficiencies within the chakra system with the seven deadly sins. This is why we have the seven deadly sins, because they have been made manifest through the imbalance of our chakra system. Now, how we develop the imbalance within our chakra system is a whole nother story and a whole nother interview. But this is actually why it occurs. So having this working knowledge will be, human beings can start to do anything with themselves, which is the only thing I'm interested in, to be able to, for human beings to be able to do anything.
Yeah. Just to prep us for that interview when it happens, just so that we can quote back on this interview, there are five, like there's actually 12 points. You got like one, two, three, four, five at the front, and one, two, three, four, five at the back, and you got your top and your bottom, and the back ones you call thrusters. But I can tell that I'm not meant to ask you about that today. I'll ask you another time. But something I can ask you about today is talking about health is a lot of what we've canvassed today, but you then interchangeably started using health and wealth. And I mean, it's interesting. I would love to sort of get your take on what abundance really means to you. But you also just, I mean, you're on a television show now, Mechanics of Money. I mean, bring us into your worldview. What's going on there?
Yeah, yeah. So this is really exciting. So we've already filmed it. So it's a course that I taught. It's called The Mechanics of Money. So I taught this course, and I had 10 students participate in it. And it's a 9-week course. And every single one of them made a tremendous amount of money. Some of them made millions, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands in 9 weeks. And this is legit because I had them take screenshots of their bank account, their bank statements, emails coming in about offers and this and that, just like I filmed myself on Paralyzing myself. This is the metaphysics of how you actually, or the mechanics of money, right? It's been systematized. If you embody and follow what it is that I lay out, you make money because it's the only result. Like if you're headed to New York and you never deviate, eventually you'll get to New York. Same kind of understanding. So no one has ever been able to capture real-time manifestation because I don't, as far as I know, no one's ever been able to teach that to people so that we can actually film them making it in just a matter of weeks, right? So this is going to be a television show that comes out in the fall, and it's based upon the course Mechanics of Money. Now, how this, and it's going to be revolutionary, highly entertaining, but more so than entertaining, it's going to be very, very educational. You're going to learn more about how money actually works than you could ever imagine because it's nothing like what you've been told. Nothing, which is why most people work very hard and have nothing to show for it because you've been told to do it all wrong. All wrong, all wrong, all wrong. So we're gonna change that. The difference between health and wealth, Amrit, is just tweaks downstream. That's all they are. Now, both come from within. This is the most important thing to understand. So remember we talked about the I am? The I am is whole and complete. It's a fractal of God, right? It's not lacking anything. It's not missing anything. And everything and everyone is like this, right? Okay. Your self-realization is within you. Your healing is within you. And the manifestation of every one of your desires is within you. It's the same thing. So we simply bring this out. It just becomes specific tweaks downstream. Whether it's health or wealth, they both operate in the exact same way. It's the same understandings that are captured, so to speak, in supercharged self-healing about how I unparalyze myself. It's the same level of consciousness and the same metaphysics, but just turn to how to manifest wealth instead of health. But it operates the same way. So the show itself is going to capture 10 people struggling with money and trying hard and working hard and all their beliefs, all their attachments to money. And the show is going to show over a period of just 9 weeks how they completely transform themselves and how much money they actually make. And it's truly remarkable. And money itself, what it is, I've never ever had anyone really get triggered. I've talked about everything, Amrit. You and I have talked about everything just in our interviews together, right?
Touch wood.
There isn't a subject I haven't talked about, right? RJ has been asked every question that you could possibly imagine, right?
Mm.
People only get triggered when I talk about money. I think this is fascinating. I think this is absolutely I could talk about God and religion and energy and kids. Why would someone incarnate for that, right? But people get more triggered when I talk about money. This is incredible to me. This is incredible, right? So this is why I have spent so much time developing these courses on how to manifest money, because I want to remove all this emotionality. I want to remove all these blocks, just like for health. I want to do and I have, and I want to do the exact same thing, and I have for money, for manifestation, and then for business. There's going to be a bunch of business courses that come out too, right? So when we start to operate in the way that these 10 people did, and all 10 of them did it, anyone can do this. Having wealth in your life is not what you think it is, or how it comes about. It just isn't. We've been taught wrong, completely wrong. There's not much difference. If your healing is within you, which it is, right? Isn't your wealth within you? Is there even an outside world, or is that simply the inside pushed out? So that's the outside world, simply a projection of your own state of being and your own state of awareness. That's what the outside world is. That's why we don't see opportunities, because we don't see ourselves clearly. So how could we see opportunities? We don't see ourselves clearly, so we don't see the wealth. Our focus is outside. It's the same with health. And we talked about this before we started recording. We talked about human beings, if they're sick, right? They go to the chiropractor. They go to a specialist. They go to somebody who specializes in, okay, I got that my feet are killing me. You go to the podiatrist. You go to the specialist, right? Something happens in your house, right? The toilet, the faucet, you call a plumber. You call someone who's an expert in these things. The electricity is a problem, whatever. You call an expert. We don't do this for money. We don't do this for money, right? So many of us work our ass off for decades. We get squat to show for, but somehow reaching out to an expert who actually knows how to do it. We never even think this way. It's bizarre to me. I want to change everything. That's the only time I incarnate. I change everything, right? So we now have something that is reliable, that is systematic, right? I know what it's like to be homeless. I know what it's like to be flat broke, right? I also know what it's like to make $10 million just the first 6 months of this year. I don't have an army of people working for me, less than 5 people. So how is this possible? How can someone? That's exactly what I teach people. It's not what you think it is. It just isn't. So health and wealth directly related. Directly related. It's just tweaks downstream. And once you start to experience the way this stuff is laid out, wait till you see the TV show, Emmerich. People are like the students. You'll literally see them doing this because they've been operating a certain way for 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, right? Work hard, who you know, right economy, got to have the right offer, got to have the funnel set up. You got to have, you know what I'm talking about, got to have all these things that ain't it. My friend, that ain't it. You need some of those things, but that's not it. That's not how you generate wealth. It absolutely isn't. And this has to do, there was a guy, Brian, who was retired, nothing going on, no job, no interest, not even interest in making money. There was no interest, nothing going on. He made a bunch of money in just weeks, right? So once you know how to do it, and then the other end of the spectrum too, there's people that do make money and they're like, I can't get past the ceiling. RJ, I've been at the ceiling for 10 years. It doesn't matter what I do, I can't get, they triple their money. Triple, right? It's the same with feeling better. People do the healing take, or how about the meditation in 1 second? There's ways to do this. This is what I do. So the television show is going to be great. Who knows? Maybe season 2, Amrit, you're going to be on it. So this is very, very exciting to me. Human beings getting a better quality of life. I, to me, there's nothing else. Like, this is it. So health and wealth, almost the same thing. It's just tweaks downstream. And one more thing I'll say about this. The conditioned mind, the thinking mind, makes everything conditional, right? So you, Amrit, and everyone else who's watching and listening, you think your wealth is conditional based upon something else. If I have the right product, if I have the right offer, if I know the right people, if it's the right economy, bullshit. That is conditional. Your wealth is not conditional. Your eyes are on wealth. It's not coming from wealth. These are subtle shifts. Then they start to add up when you start doing the exercise. When you start, because I give a step by step about what to do. You'll see it in the show. Do this, and the students actually do it. Do this, then you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this. So wealth is not conditional. Your state of being is not conditional either. If you think your state of being is conditional, you have it backwards. Your state of being is not conditional about how much money you have in the bank, how many people know about you or love you, or how nice your house is or not nice. If your state of being is conditional, you also have it backwards. So this is the complete reversal of everything that we've been taught, and that's been taught. And that's why it works, because it's the complete reversal of everything that we've been taught that doesn't work. This does actually work. So I'm really, really excited about it. I've had a real focus on money manifestation for people and business success, because I know if you're super spiritual, money is bad, right? How is that cognitive dissonance feeling for you right now? You want it, but it's bad. Do you really think it's ever going to happen for you because of that? I can't tell you how many people that have come. It's like, I've been watching all this stuff and this and that, and I'm broke and it doesn't work and it's bullshit. And now I finally have something practical that's useful, right? And money is energy. It allows you to create more with your life. That's it. It ain't nothing other than that. It's money is energy, like everything else. And the more money you have, the more energy that you have to create the life that you desire. Real wealth is not having to buy things that you don't want. Not having to buy things that you don't want. For example, right, maybe you like Porsches, right? Or Maseratis or whatever, but you can't afford it, right? So you buy the Camry or you buy the Honda, right? Nice cars. Nothing wrong with those cars. Nothing wrong with that's not what you want. It's not what you desire. So if you want to go on a vacation, you want to go to, I don't know, you want to go to Greece, right? And you want to stay at a resort right on the water, right? And you're like, you tell them, I can't afford that. So you go to, Cancun and say nothing wrong with Cancun, but it's not what you want. You're buying things that you don't want, or the Rolex that you actually want, or whatever the hell it is. Who cares? But real wealth is not having to buy things that you don't want. See, we don't look at it. You don't see things this way. Real wealth is not having to work with people that you don't want to. That's real wealth. You don't have to work with people that you don't want to. I don't do interviews except for a few people that I actually like
I was going to
you.
ask you at some point, but then I was like, it's going to be a bit loaded.
Yeah,
if I
no,
ask him,
it's
why don't
the
you do
absolute, it's the absolute truth. I'm going to do a few interviews. I'm going to do interviews with the people that I like spending time with. I don't have to do interviews with people that I don't want to do interviews with, right? And real wealth is being able to spend your time the way that you want to, right? Not buying things that you don't want, not working with people that you don't want to, and not spending time the way that you don't want to. And everyone can do this. Everyone can do this. So that was a really long answer. So
No,
I
no.
appreciate you letting me ramble
I
forever
also,
and
I
ever. But
also, he-
health,
I
yeah.
also hear downstream from there. Like, I mean, you focused on health, you focused on wealth, but in the back of my head, I can hear they could just as easily, like you said, the downstream tweaks could just as easily apply to relationships. I'm sure there's many domains within which it can transpire. Because question about that actually is, in your mind, consciousness primary or is energy underneath that? Like the dynamics between energy and consciousness.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting question. Okay. So this is almost like the chicken or the egg, right? Which came first? Is it consciousness or is it energy, right? Okay.
Mm.
So the answer is both. I mean, which came first,
I love it.
the chicken or the egg? It's both, right? So
Just the
the
perfect
condition,
response for the EMI, by the way.
right?
Just
So
go
this is
fuck.
the thing. So again, the condition might know it's this or it's that. It's this or well, no, it's only that way for what's very far downstream. They're set no. So I'll give a very short answer. The answer is both, but the very short answer is that at one moment, what we call God is really the absolute. The Hindu masters understand this, right? I understand this, and so there's this something, the all there is, or the absolute. So just think about everything. Just think about everything at one moment. An aspect of everything just kind of opens its eyes, and it starts to realize that it is everything. It's everything this way, to the left, to the right, down, frequentially, dimensionally, to the right. So it is everything. It knows nothing about itself. It just woke up, right? Kind of like when we incarnate. Deaf, dumb, and blind. How the hell did I get here? What the hell is the point? Okay, same thing, right? So we go on this journey of self-discovery, right? So the absolute, the all there is, was conscious. It just wasn't awake, but it didn't really know itself. But had endless. It's endless in every way. It doesn't have a beginning and it doesn't have an ending. It is everything. So it's a combination of consciousness and energy. But obviously there's a difference between these two things, and there's a difference with sentience too. Consciousness and sentience are not the same thing. Now, consciousness and sentience are derived from energy that has formed a level of intelligence. Now, that level of intelligence can actually form as like attracts like. So it doesn't necessarily have to be through what we would call trial and error, right? I don't want, like, we'd end up talking about 4 hours if I went on and on about this.
That is brilliant,
But
mate. Yeah.
sentience is consciousness that has been able to evolve itself through its own self-directed creativity. So
Cool.
when something is sentient, it is evolving itself consciously through creativity. That's sentient. You and I are sentient, right? Okay. Rocks and minerals, not. Not. They are barely conscious, barely conscious. And we can start to see all these different levels. Again, like I said, it doesn't matter. But it's all energy, but some energy is already conscious and some energy is already sentient. So it's both. That's why it's the chicken or the egg. Well, no, both.
Brilliant.
So it's energy, consciousness, and sentience.
All right. Well, to close, in the book, you write something that will shock I mean, we've already had some shocks in here. And I said this at the beginning. The book is written in dialogue form, so it brings the victim and brings the skeptic to the fore, which, touch wood, I don't think many people have the gumption to put themselves in the firing line like that. You literally, like, every page is just you putting yourself in the firing line. So, as you will, RJ, but you did that to yourself. But hopefully today's podcast hasn't been unpleasant for you. You
No.
write something shocking at the end of the book, well, not the end, but for the spiritual community, this is going to rub many people up the wrong way. It is not unconditional love. You call it spiritual fiction. You say it is your authenticity that is the only real, true power in this world. I just can't close without getting that unpacked in there. I know it's a big one, but you can answer it succinctly if you want to. Yeah, man. I mean, many people listening in, like the whole theme of this entire thing is it's God is unconditional love, unconditional love, trying to love ourselves unconditionally is the whole premise of the whole thing. And you're saying it's actually your authenticity. Why is it so important? Authenticity, and why is it so important that we not orient ourselves to unconditional love?
Okay. All right. This is a great question. Okay. So I don't know if you've heard me say, Amrit, love without wisdom is self-destruction. And if you never heard me say that, I've just said it now, right? So love without wisdom is self-destruction. Now, there is a reason why unconditional love has been put as the ultimate and on a pedestal, because it removes discernment, because it makes people susceptible and passive. It removes the idea of being able to analyze intuitively what is right and what is wrong. It is bullshit when we say it is all about unconditional love. That is an agenda. Completely. 100%. I don't give a shit who doesn't like what I'm saying. All I have for you is the truth. What you do with it, I don't care. This is an agenda. God is not just unconditional love. Let's take a look at, from direct experience, what is God? What is it that actually supports, nourishes, and feeds this unconditional love? Wisdom. The summation of all wisdom is unconditional love. You cannot pull out wisdom and have unconditional love. It's what makes up unconditional love. It is the knowingness, because without wisdom, love or unconditional love without wisdom is self-destruction. So we must understand the difference between these two things. This is an agenda. And by the way, to add to this, when we're incarnate in the lower frequencies of the physical universe, which is where we are, right? We don't know what unconditional love is. We don't. We have no tangible reference. And don't tell me it's how you feel about your sons. That is the definition of conditional love. Because you don't feel that way about anyone else, do you? Right? Okay, let's not get it twisted. Let's be clear. Let's be clear, my friend, right? Okay. So this is an agenda. This is an absolute agenda. There is no real unconditional love going on in this realm. It is purely conditional. Purely conditional. So take this and throw it out. It doesn't apply here. It's used as something, as a way for you not to have any discernment about what's going on and to be passive and accept anything. Wisdom is what nourishes, surrounds, and supports, and what actually blooms into unconditional love. It's wisdom. So being authentic, being who and what you really are, is actually the embodiment of God itself. Being authentic, being your true self. Oh, self-realization. Is that how that works? Interesting. It's about authenticity. Authenticity is the real magic that exists. Authenticity is the real power. It sure as shit ain't unconditional love. We don't know what that is when we're here. We have no actual concept of that. None. Zero. And it's an ideal that we keep trying to live up to that you can't embody. You cannot. Unconditional love cannot be embodied 100%. You cannot. Authenticity is the power. Authenticity is what is. It's all of it. It's all your talents. It's all your abilities. It's all your knowledge. It's all your compassion. It's all your forgiveness. It's all your intention and your will. It's all of it. The authenticity is the power, not unconditional love. That's a psyop. That's bullshit. Total bullshit. And the same thing goes with success. We've heard this, Aaron. Do what you love. Right? Bullshit. What are you willing to suffer for? That's the question everyone must ask themselves. Not what you love. Because love it. You love your wife. Did you get a divorce? Love your husband. Did you get a divorce? You love this person. Are you still having a loving relationship, or is that ended? Love is not it. What are you willing to suffer for? That's the question. And what you'll find, what you're willing to suffer for, is what you're most passionate about. What you're most passionate about is what you're going to be the most determined about. What you're most determined about is what you're going to be able to bring to fruition, no matter what obstacles prevent themselves. That's the key. Authenticity is all of it. Desire, intention, thought, emotion, action, behavior, talents, abilities, compassion, forgiveness, determination, all of it. Authentically you. That power can part the Red Sea. I'm here to tell you, that power can put your destroyed body back together. Nothing else can. Unconditional love is a psyop. That ain't it. Love without wisdom is self-destruction. Just have a relationship with a narcissist. Tell me how that goes.
RJ Spina. Brother Bear, it is, yeah. Every time it feels like it's been too long between drinks. My goodness,
Yes.
how does one begin to thank you for your time, your energy, your presence, your abundance? But thank you so much, of course, for gracing our shores here once again and sharing yourself so abundantly and openly with us here today. And on behalf of myself and the Inspired Evolution audience, you have been through so much in your life, and you continue to use that as the prima materia for the things that continue to bloom and inspire the world around us. And you do that very with a deep sense of authentic mission and wisdom in there. So I just want to, on behalf of myself, and if I may take the liberty, on behalf of everyone here at the Inspired Evolution, thank you for you, brother man. Appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Oh, Aaron, you're most welcome. And I sincerely appreciate you saying that, but I want you to know it's absolutely my pleasure. It's absolutely my pleasure. As you and I both, I
You're gonna make me
truly
cry.
enjoy.
Stop it. Stop it.
I
I
truly
okay, this is one of
enjoy
my
it.
blocks. Okay, go.
I really do, because I don't do anything I don't want to do. I really don't, right? I genuinely enjoy us interacting with each other, which is why I will continue to come, and us will spend time together. So it's been my pleasure, and it's my honor for us to spend time together. I love you, brother.
Thank you so much, man. That means so much. You made it through to the end of another really incredible episode, touch wood. Thank you so much for your inspirations to evolve. It is such an honor to be your brother walking this path by your side. To all of you that are subscribed to the channel, thank you, thank you, thank you. Everything you see around here, it's all powered and empowered by you championing this podcast. Costs you absolutely nothing. It's absolutely free. Hit the subscribe button below, and it supports love, positivity, and wisdom like this being spread through the channel. Thank you so much. Thank you for your support. It really goes such a long way. Cannot thank you enough. To all of you that haven't yet subscribed, please do take a moment. As I'm saying the word subscribe, the button below is lighting up in the colors in the Inspired Evolution. Please join the community, join the movement, spreading love, positivity, and wisdom like this around the planet together. Thank you so much in advance for your incredible support. It costs you absolutely nothing. It's completely free. Just hit that subscribe button. It helps power the entire movement. Thank you. Friendly reminder again, we have, if you're inspired by this content and you want to forge it into real connection, we have the Inspired Evolution Community Circle, the Circle, online as well. You can check it out, inspiredevolution.com/circle, if you feel the call for more community in this Aquarian time like this. And on screen now, for you to dive in even deeper on your journey of the Inspired Evolution, the next best episode. So go on, take your pick and make your click. I'll see you in the next one. I'll see you there.